Hey, horror fiends. We are back with What's Your Story? My name is Lexi, aka Grim Reaper, aka Charles Bartlett. We'll get into that. You'll know what I mean in a minute. I am joined with our my friend here, JR, and I'm also joined with Ricky Grimes, the man himself. So, we are going to be talking about The Frighteners. This is an oldie but goodie, a good childhood movie that I loved back in 1996. I was 6 years old when I watched this, and I still love it to this day at almost 33.
She was 6. I was a junior in high school.
Oh God,
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was on the way becoming a dad.
Aw. I was 6. I was just an itty bitty baby, and my mom let me watch it. But this is a 1996 film, a horror comedy. So let's get into, does the comedy work with the horror? I am usually not a big fan of that, but we'll see what we think of this one. It's directed by Peter Jackson, and we have our cast with Michaeljfox, Trini Alvarado, and then a whole bunch of, we have a huge cast, honestly, with this one. So the synopsis for this one: the mystery heart condition that killed 30 people in less than 4 years has claimed another victim. Doctors are baffled as to why seemingly fit and healthy people are suffering these massive heart attacks. Many of Fairwater's residents are claiming that the shadow of death has once again descended on the town. For decades, the name Fairwater has been synonymous with death. Following the infamous 1964 Bradley Bartley murder spree, 30 years later, as the death toll steadily rises, it appears the Grim Reaper, me, once again returned to the quiet streets of Fairwater. This movie had a huge cast. We have Michaeljfox as Frank Bannister. We have Dr. Lucy. We have Frank Bannister's 3 ghost friends. And then the Dammers guy, Bartley himself, the Grim Reaper. So you can mix those two. Patricia Bradley, Old Lady Bradley, and then Sheriff Walt. So let's get into all of this. As a huge cast, did it work for the story, or was it just too much for you guys? I'm going to start with the honorable person here on What's Your Story, Ricky Grimes.
It works. It absolutely works for me. If you know me, I love ensemble casts, especially when like they take even minor roles, but they put a familiar face to it. Like, I'm a big fan of like Quentin Tarantino and Rob Zombie. They're notorious for that. And this film, even back then when Peter Jackson did it, I mean, we got like John Astin's in it. Obviously, that's the original Gomez. Well, not the original, but the one that most people are familiar with.
The judge.
Arlie Emery, Peter Jackson cameos, Dee Wallace, Melanie Linsky, if you're a Yellow Jackets fan, is in it. Elizabeth Hawthorne. I mean, you go down the list. This face after face in this film, and it's like boom, boom, boom. And I love that. And it's just more I'm probably missing. But yeah, I think it works because it's a nice balance. The focus is always on Michaeljfox. And of course, Jeffrey Combs, the great Jeffrey Combs. He was amazing. Like, those are the 2 like main like focuses, in my opinion, in that. But then again, they're not weighed down by all the other faces. Everyone plays their parts very well, but the main focus is on a small central cast of characters. But I like it. I think it works. It's not overbearing or overwhelming, and it's not too distracting. Sometimes it could be really distracting, but in this film, it works. So I really dug it, and I'm a big fan of a nice ensemble cast where I could see a minor character and be like, I know that guy.
JR, did this cast work out for you, or was it just too much?
No, it worked out. I mean, come on, man. Who doesn't like R. Lee Ernie, aka Sergeant Hiles? I mean, the fact that he plays a drill sergeant in the cemetery, making sure everything's in order, is freaking awesome. I mean,
It wasn't supposed to either. There was supposed to be a character as a homage to his Full Metal Jacket character, and no one did it well. He said, "Fuck it, let's just go grab him and see if he could do it." And they expanded his role because of that, man. Awesome.
Oh yeah, I mean, Jeffrey Combs. I mean, Reanimator. Who doesn't know Reanimator? I mean, like, and his character Milton was so awesome. a guy who's basically works for the FBI, but he's scared of women yelling at him.
But didn't you want to throw a punch him just once?
It's reanimated. You do this so cool. You don't want to touch him. And then, then you had She McBride as Cyrus, which is one of the his partners in crime, which I think he's right here in the screen, even though you can't see him. But yeah, I mean,
it's the disco guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. One of Bannister's ghost friends.
Yeah.
No, great cast. They all, like Rick said, they all played their roles well. Yeah, I mean, and it's hard to get such a cast like this because you could tell they did it and they had fun with it. There was no egos involved, and it worked very well.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. This whole huge ensemble of a cast all worked very well. Back to the Future. Hello, Michael J. Fox. You didn't expect him to be in a horror comedy movie, but I love Michael J. Fox character. All the way down to Lucy, to the Bartley and Bradley duo, and the ghost friends. Like that's a nice touch.
Jay Busey, we forgot about him.
Yeah. It was always weird.
Like every character was super important. Dammers, oh my gosh, I could smack him once or twice, but I loved him. You're great. He's a strong character, and even Walt the sheriff, he was good. I think his name's Troy Evans, I believe.
Yeah.
Troy Evans.
Another familiar face.
Yes. So let's dive right into it. What did you guys think of this movie? What did you think of the characters, and who stood out most to you? Starting with Grimes.
Of course, Michael J. Fox. I mean, he's great in this film, and it's a total departure from what he's played previously. He's Marty McFly. You see him, he's Marty McFly, and he's played roles like more action roles before this that are not as big. But if you know his career, you follow it. But in this one, he's the central character, and he had, oh my God, he must have had a grand old time making this film. I think I read a while ago that it was in New Zealand they filmed this. Is that right? This was filmed in New Zealand because Peter Jackson, that's where he was filming. So that was the only thing that was taxing on him. But yeah, other than that, I've got to say Jeffrey Combs. As a standout, Jeffrey Combs. Yes, Dahmer. Oh, man. Let me tell you, just the look of this guy. You said you want to punch him. Like the shaved sides, the oily split hair. That's, oh my God. Like this guy's great. And of course, his performance, it borders over the top, but not into more like cartoon territory. It's just, it fits the tone of the film. The film is it's a horror film, but it has comedy in it, obviously. But it's not for kids. I don't think so because it's violent. But
my mom was still at 6 years old.
I mean, there's no war in it, but again, it's about the horrific imagery that's in it, and of course, once the Grim Reaper comes around, it's all all bets are off. But but as far as standout, Michael J. Fox, of course, Jeffrey Combs, that's my standout because he just stood out so much, and other characters, of course, like R. Lee. Oh man, when he's on screen, J.R. Cano. He just chews up the scenery, man. You can't look away from his stuff. But yeah, those are my top three right there.
All right, who stands out to you, JR?
I mean, Michael J. Fox is the man. I mean, come on, think about it. This is Teen Wolf. I mean,
I forgot Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf, which is semi horror comedy. You could put in that maybe, but his character. I mean, Michael J. Fox can't do no wrong. I mean, God bless him. Feel bad what he's going through, but the guy is such a hell of a talent. Always was. I gotta say, the one that kind of stuck up on me was Ray, played by Peter Dobson, which is the boyfriend who didn't believe Michael J. Fox, and lo and behold, he stuck following him throughout the whole town because he trying to figure out, what the hell he did wrong because he exercised every day. He was always fit, and his character. I mean, it was a perfect counter to Michael J. Fox because he was the comedic, basically, non-believer. He didn't think any of this was real until he died of a heart attack. Then basically, he was stuck on it. And yeah, I mean, come on, R. Lee, that dude's just freaking awesome, man.
That's just great.
I mean, and think about it. He did this movie, and another horror movie he did was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which he killed it. His character in Texas Chainsaw Massacre was awesome. That shows you like each of the characters they picked up. and cast are just great actors, and they can play any role. I mean, every time I think of Cyrus She McBride, I think of Undercover Brother.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I mean, that role was freaking awesome. Undercover Brother. I mean, yeah. I mean, and yes, Jeffrey Combs. The fact that here's a guy who, is trying to call basically Michael J. Fox that he's into like was it the devil and all that stuff? And he rips his shirt open. He has all this pentagram, everything on his chest.
Oh,
And
that's crazy. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that was a very good scene. But yeah, I
So
mean,
gross.
that was awesome. He was like, oh, he's like,
It is awesome, but the pits in his chest.
It was carved in, right?
yeah, he
Yeah.
carved it in himself.
He carved it, yeah.
That was just a cool scene because it was kind of weird. He takes off. He's like, oh, look. Then this is like, what the fuck, man? But
He wanted like Satan's powers or something. I don't know. He
wanted it all in on the evil.
He wanted all in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, my favorites, definitely Michael J. Fox. I mean, Back to the Future. Come on, like he can do no wrong, like you guys said. He's definitely the strongest, I feel, in this movie. But another strong one that stood out to me was Charles Bartlett, the Grim Reaper. So you don't even know who the Grim Reaper is until mid to near end. But he stood out to me. I loved the story behind the 1964 murders with him and his girlfriend, Patricia Bradley.
Dee Wallace.
I liked her too. Just them as a duo together is perfect. Because you in the beginning you think she's just basically at home by this crazy woman, her mother, being held, but really the mother's protecting her and protecting the town. If you really think about it, from and we'll get into it more deeply, but from the murders that are continuing 30 years later. So Charles Bartlett definitely stood out to me. I love his character, just the visual of him as well. I mean, the burntness, because he was executed for the murders. I got me a score of 12. One more than Starkweather. So that, I love him. I liked his character. I loved his story. Even with his girlfriend Patricia, them as a duo worked for me. But back to Michael J. Fox and his three amigos, Stuart, the judge. I love the judge. and I feel like the three amigos, the judge, Stuart, and Cyrus, they're the comedy of this movie. Yeah. And let's dive right into it. So how did you feel about the story of the Bradley Bartlett murders? I mean, the town was numbered at this point. So, and now 30 years later, it's counting more. I think by the end of the movie, they ended up with 40 kills or 41 kills, something like that.
Big head count, yeah.
Yeah. Ricky, what did you think of the Bartlett Bradley murders?
I loved it, especially if you deep into it. It's based on an actual real life couple who pretty much did the exact same thing. A guy and his girlfriend go on a killing spree over, I think, 2 months or something like that. He gets executed. She gets life in jail, but then later on, like 17 years later, she goes on parole. Pretty much that's like Patricia's character here. Now she's free. And I loved it. And what the good thing about it is they picked the right actor. Like Jake Busey was the perfect guy for this because, like JR mentioned, like he got this face that it's creepy, but at the same time, you just want to, like, again, it's punchable in a sense, you know what I mean? Like, and he's always playing these sinister and these sinister characters that are like creepy and like jovial, and he's just a guy that you see him and oh my god, you see Jake Busey, immediately he has heat with me, you know what I mean? So it works. And the storyline, the fact that they took it from real world inspirations, it's grounded in reality. And I like that. It makes perfect sense. And yeah, and the fact that the Grim Reaper, again, I gotta point this out, the effects on that Grim Reaper was awesome. I mean, this is Peter Jackson's first work with real CGI. And of course, we know what he will go on to do with CGI. I mean, Weta, one of the greatest CGI companies in the world, probably the greatest, right?
Yeah.
Right now. And man, yes, everything just tied together perfectly with that. And you said the town is numbered. I love that because it's a nice metaphor, and I loved it. Yeah, story works. Story is important because of this film. If the story wasn't like good, it could have easily fell by the wayside because it could have easily relied on Michael J. Fox's star power. It could rely on like a lot of gags and effects and stuff like that. But the fact that they kept a story in there that's pretty basic, but it could happen because it has happened. So it again intense. It makes it scary. That's where the horror elements come in.
Nah, the storyline was really good.
Think of the murders of this town because the town was truly numbered.
Nah, it was good. I like the whole, especially when you get the flashback when Michael J. Fox goes back to the hospital to bring the ashes, and you get the whole flashback scene where you see with we have the shotgun underneath the fucking gurney on top of the gurney. He just pulls out, starts shooting. I mean, yeah, it was great. I like the fact that, like Rick said, they took something from real life and brought it into a movie, but to the point where you're able to pull off into a comedy at the same time, which is even better because they could have went serious with this. They could have gotten rid of all the comedy and just goes pure serious with. They did that when it worked. The way they did it was perfect. And yeah, I mean, come on, who doesn't like Busey, man? That dude's just freaking. I mean, I wouldn't drink with the guy. I'd probably drink with the guy, see what he does, but it's just his character. His character.
What Starship Troopers is the only film that he was a good guy in.
Yeah, but he was a jerk in that one too, though.
Jerk, yeah, but all right, he was, but he wasn't a villain. I'm saying,
No, he wasn't a villain, but I
mean, he came around in the end on that movie.
Well, he did. He became the hero because he ended up. Was he one of the guys that got him? Oh no, he wasn't. It was the other guy.
It's been so long since I've seen that one.
Too bad we should review.
Oldie but goodie.
No, but yeah, the story. I mean, the murders were good. The flashbacks were good. The fact that you had was it Patricia, right? She was basically stuck at home, and even the scene with Bartlett in the walls was freaking awesome. Where he was kind of singing. No, well, when what's her name? The wife went to the house to go visit her.
Oh, Dr. Lucy.
Yeah, she went to the house, and
the
whole time Bartlett's in the walls.
After that, she brought the ghost back with her.
Yes, I mean, yeah, it was good, and I do love the whole thing with the numbers being put in the foreheads. That was
crazy when Michael J. Fox's character first saw that. When he called him on his bullshit, but he saw it, and he was like, he talked to his three buddies, "Hey, you guys are behind that?" Like, no. Now he's like, "Oh shit, this just got real."
Well, he knew it wasn't funny because he knew the numbers was on his wife's forehead. And I think she was number 12, or no, 13. Right. She was number 13. She was number 13.
Lucky 13.
Poor woman.
Yeah, and I mean, the murders for me. I mean, what a great story based off of, a true story. I love Jake Bussey's character. He was probably my favorite from Grim Reaper to when he reveals himself. Like I said, the look of him, the burntness on his head, like that's cool. That was a nice touch because he was executed by electrical chair.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a nice touch.
His whole character and the relationship between his girlfriend, Patricia, she plays it off as she didn't, she's this innocent. It was all him. And, he went crazy. And then we hear at the end that Sheriff Walt says at the very end of the movie, there was a bunch of Ouija boards in her, and she's been trying to contact him ever since she got out of jail. So she's been in on it. And then the flashbacks from Michael J. Fox, Frank Bannister, he saw the whole thing go down inside that building that they were in at the very end. Was it a hospital or something? Or
it was a mental asylum they were in. Yeah,
mental asylum. Yeah. So, yeah, the Bartley murders really work for this story. And I love the three ghosts of the friends, the three amigos, and I want to dive deep for the next question on them, but they were definitely a true help to Frank Bannister's psychic investigation situation. And like you said, with Bartley going as the Grim Reaper at the time, going through the walls, and Dr. Lucy bringing it home. You see him right behind Ray. And Ray, I got to say, he is hilarious. He's such an asshole, but I love him. I love him. I think I would react the same way Ray would, honestly. Like, what a fucking scam this is. Get the fuck out of my house. So, I love his whole persona. So
That was a
that
big
whole
ass bill
scene,
he sent them.
It was
I
a
know,
big bill.
like, you tripping, and that's a lot of money back then. Like, that's a lot of money. And he's like, well, we can just call it even with the fence.
Yeah.
I loved the not so much bromance between Ray and Bannister, but I love Bartlett. The murders for this town definitely works because of, like I said, the town is numbered by the seconds. You don't know which way his Grim Reaper is going. One second he's at Ray's house, then he's at the museum, and then he's, trying to kill the Dr. Lucy. He's everywhere. You just don't know which way, who's next. I love it. The whole concept. And like you said, the graphics of the Grim Reaper, badass. Like, I love
Yeah, I
it.
would know. That's like a precursor to what do you, in the Lord of the Rings?
Lord
What do
of
you
the
call it?
Rings.
What do
The
you call it?
Nazgul.
Nazgul. Yeah.
Yeah. Funny, that's the second time we mentioned Lord of the Rings, right?
Oh, God, I love Lord
You
of the Rings.
can't. I can't think of Peter Jackson without thinking of that now. Before I used to
I
think of
meant
like
to
Brain
JR.
Damage and Dead Alive.
Yeah.
I meant
I
to
know.
JR. The
Because
review to Z, I mentioned
oh,
Lord of the Rings.
I bring it up because he's a big Tolkien fan. So.
Huge.
Yeah.
So diving right into the comedy side of this, there is comedy in this film. What did you think of the comedy of this film, and did it work towards the whole story? Starting with Grimes.
It works. It works, but sometimes it goes a little bit too far. There's, if I remember correctly, in the museum, with the corpse was like having
The
sex.
judge.
He was having sex with the corpse. And what they
That
say,
could be out,
he
yeah.
prefers them when they stay still. It's something like really
Yeah.
creepy. Like, I mean, right now that shit probably wouldn't fly, but yeah. In this movie, if you watch the director's cut, there's even more comedy in it, especially towards the beginning, and Jackson cut it all out because he wanted to focus more on the horror elements and to bring a better balance between horror and comedy. I think at the end they did a good job of the balance overall. Again, the violence, and then that the stakes. It's high stakes. That's very important, even with comedy, because if there's no high stakes, then what are you watching it for? You mentioned when the Green Reaper's going everywhere, boom, 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 collecting victims, and Michael J. Fox's character. What's his first name?
Frank.
Frank. When Frank is just going all over town, so it works. It works in that aspect. Some of it is goofy if you watch it now. It, especially with the ghosts, the three ghosts. But it's meant to be a horror comedy. Originally, Peter Jackson wanted this to be PG-13, or he wanted rated R, but they were kind of saying no, we want PG-13. So he cut out a lot of gore out of the film, and they kept submitting it. But because of the violence and the sheer nature of the film, it kept getting a rated R. So he's like, well, if we're gonna be rated R, let me push. I just took all this gore out for no reason. So now the scene where Jake Busey's character get his head blown off, for example, that was added in later. Because he's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna add something in there. But it's a good balance. It needs it. It needs it. Sometimes it could be a little too much, and it depends on the viewer. If you don't like comedy like that and your horror films, you might not enjoy it as much as somebody like me. If it's done well, like GR, we talked about it. Gremlins, a good example of that. Horror comedy. Beetlejuice, horror comedy. So yeah, it works. The film over time it gets better and better. And I think more people pick up on it and appreciate it more and more because of that aspect. Because now, especially now, where like the Marvel movies tend to be more lighthearted with the action, people seem to like that combination now. So horror and comedy, if done well, it could work. And it does work in this film to me.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. The comedy, like you were saying, certain scenes, like the scene in that museum, definitely was like, all right, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
But like like with the three amigos, like you were saying, they were good. Like the whole race situation. I mean, this is a time where I think a little bit after this, where you have the Ghost Hunters show start coming out, all the paranormal investigations shows start coming out. So it's kind of a precursor to people who didn't believe in that stuff, who was thought they were all scam artists. And that was one thing about it, is like he was a scammer, even though he was able to see the dead. but he took advantage because remember some of the
Good call.
the two
Good-
amigos weren't the only
call.
ones he used before, and neither was the judge. He used others before, but them two guys, for some reason, them three guys found a way to control their ectoplasm. And that's another thing with the ectoplasm, and like when what's his name? Oh my god, with the younger kid with the glasses when he gets killed.
Stuart.
Oh,
Yeah.
Stuart.
When he gets killed, his eyeballs start, which was a cool scene. But I mean, yeah, I mean it was well balanced. Even the scenes with Milton, I mean that was more dark comedy, satire comedy than anything. So it was your lighthearted down to your dark humor, which it is a good balance. So, I mean, I agree. The museum scene kind of I'm like no.
Yeah, that was...
It was really well done. I like the balance, and I mean all these characters did a great job doing it.
Right. Now, for me, I think definitely the horror and the comedy worked great together because it wasn't too much. It wasn't, super focused on the comedy. It was definitely more horror than it was comedy. But I loved the relationship between Frank Bannister and the three amigos because he really it was basically a business aspect, if you think about it. I mean, they are helping him in his business. He's making money. He's an architect trying to finish his house for his wife. And so I love the relationship. And I love the scenes where, they levitate the bed with Ray and, or with Lucy and Ray on the bed. Ray, he's all about himself. So he jumps off right away. I love the scene with the babies floating. They're holding babies, and I love.
That was weird.
That was really weird.
It was done well.
Yeah, it was though. It's just a weird image though, like the imagery.
And I just love the Cyrus and Stuart's relationship too, because they're like, "Oh, this one stinks," and I just love the whole concept of the three amigos, and the judge is awesome. You guys are right. The whole museum scene, I didn't care for, especially with the judge. I liked it on the aspect of Frank Bannister trying to help the woman who was marked next.
Yeah.
Now that part was cool. And unfortunately, I don't approve of it, but he punches her to get her out of there, to shut her the fuck up for a minute and get her out of there. And he tried his very best, but it triggered something in him with that woman because she fell after they got into the car accident, and it brought images back of Deborah, his wife. So things are starting to come together slowly but surely after that museum scene. So it was needed, but the part with the judge could have been omitted out.
Yes.
But I do like the part where the judge came in and kind of saved the situation of the cops coming in, and he's like, yes, and things are exploding things are exploding everywhere, and not everybody understands what's going on. And I love the comedy of the mummy coming out of the glass in the museum. So the museum was great, but not the part of the judge that could have been omitted. But I mean, she was so beautiful and young. Cyrus. The amigos work so good, and they are the comedy. And I love that they used them. Not too much. And there were parts where they were serious. They were really trying to help, like when they escaped from the jail. Unfortunately, they both die at that scene. Cyrus, they die again, right? I don't know. Because they're already dead.
They both died. They both ended up getting killed.
They die again.
And then they go in heaven. They're in heaven waiting.
And that goes into my next question. Bannister's ability versus reality was a problem to those who are alive in the town, and they don't quite understand. So how do you think it helped him, and how do you think it didn't help him and failed him in some ways? Ricky?
Yeah, JR brought up a good... this goes into this question. JR brought up a good point earlier when Frank could be using his abilities for, actually helping people, but he... like the ghost hunters of today, paranormal, all these paranormal shows, for example, right? Yeah. But he uses it for profit as a scam artist. So he fails as a human being in that aspect. I mean, towards the end of the film, when he wants to help Lucy and stuff, he turns the corner in a sense away from that part of his character. But yeah, I think the fact that he's using it to scam people was a bit. It's not a good character trait, Yeah. So I think in that aspect he failed on that, but. he could have been using his actual ability to actually help people. But again, if you got that ability, it's kind of hard to look for work, and because who's gonna be talking about, oh, I got ghosts in my house, It ain't like it is now. Like now everyone's got ghosts in their house essentially.
But I felt like a lot of people banished his ability too. You know what I mean? Like they're on the outside looking in. They're like, you're crazy, and they kind of blow him off, and so he becomes that person.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a very good point, because if he has that ability, who's gonna believe you, right? And
Right.
he's like, well, fuck it. If you're not gonna believe me, then I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna profit off it. You're not gonna
Yeah.
believe me? All right. I'll do my own thing then. Yeah. Then you know what? That's a good point. I didn't really emphasize that too much, because I'm looking at it as far as the story that's within the film. But if you look at the context, you're right. What he gone before that, I could see that. Yeah, good show, Lexi. Damn.
Because the trauma. What did they say in the movie? The trauma opens up that alter perception.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, good show.
JR, did you think his ability versus reality was helpful, or was it failing him in some ways?
I think it failed him because, you had a guy who basically was the cause of his wife's death. Let's be honest. He was a drunk. They got into an argument, caused an accident. She gets killed. And then you got to remember, too, is there's
that crazy hair in that flashback.
Well, there's a point in the movie where Cyrus wants out. He wants to be done, and Frank doesn't want to let them go. So he kind of held them captive at the same time, too, for his benefit, because in the jet, and when they go to the cemetery, Sergeant was it Hiles? So it's the same thing. You stop using, the dead for your benefit. And so he goes after him for telling him basically you're taking advantage of the dead as much as you're taking advantage of the alive.
Good call.
Yeah.
So
it's in the film.
Time, the whole time he was taking advantage of people because his guilt was so bad that he just didn't care. And then that scene you were talking about with the babies, remember the woman showed him the newspaper, scam artists, fake ghosts. So basically he got called on it. And then he left the house because he got busted. And then, it's he could have used his abilities for more. He did profit of it. He took advantage of people because of the fact that he couldn't get over the guilt of being the cause of what happened to his wife.
The guilt plays a big part into his decision.
Right.
Yes.
100%.
I agree with you guys. There was one moment of goodness with his ability, was sitting at dinner with Lucy and Ray and translating. Now, Ray was the asshole in this situation. What was it? $16,000 he took from his wife and invested in a bad investment.
Yeah.
And so, he translated the information like he, someone that is supposed to help you in a psychic ability did. And so I definitely feel, though, overall that it failed him tremendously. I mean, it puts him in every scene in every person that this Grim Reaper took a life. It puts him at the scene of the museum. It puts him at the scene with his wife. And it puts him in so many different situations that no wonder he's in jail. And, he has this mental breakdown, was like, you don't know me, Lucy. You don't know me at all. And he doesn't want to hurt her. He eventually falls in love with this woman.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up, too.
Yeah. And, kind of a slap at Ray, but,
Ray's dead. He's all set.
Yeah.
He took advantage of her. He took advantage of her mourning, too. He was like, oh, you don't need Ray. Ray's gone.
But, like I said, it was a business aspect off of the ability that he had. He was a scam artist. So, I mean, I can see the concept business-wise. If you're making money to try to finish your house, okay. But you're right. He could have used it for good, and he didn't. Only for a split second with Lucy. But it definitely failed him in so many ways, because he was at so many scenes, and the cops are after him. An FBI agent, Dammers, comes in after him, which... He's awesome. He's an annoying person.
I love
he's
Duffy
awesome.
so much.
I like how he first shows up. He's like peeking.
But I love the way Dammers dies. I love the way Dammers dies with the being shot. But
I like that when his head goes and all of a sudden the ghost head is right.
Yeah,
that's an interesting way to put it. As a death,
But you're right. The whole motivation is Deborah, his wife. And you guys mentioned that she died in the accident. I don't think she quite died in the accident. She was,
She
she
was
falls.
killed.
She was killed by Patricia, because we get the scene at the very end where Patricia and Charles Bartlett, are over her body, and they carve the name. So they kill her. But, I'm sure there's some damage from the car accident too. But
Right.
he thought this whole time it was his fault. And he said at the very end of the movie, "You killed her. You killed her." And this whole time I had guilt thinking I killed her from the accident. No, because when she fell, she was still breathing.
That must suck, man. Living all them years with that guilt. Oof.
I know.
But
And how would you feel?
he still put her in that predicament.
Yeah. Oh, so now there's many scenes. Just a bonus question.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, the ending toward, the twists and the turns, and, with Dammers and, the Grim Reaper and Bartley finally revealing himself. What did you guys think of that?
I think it was awesome, man. Like, especially like when you see who it is, you're like, oh, this fucking guy, man. Like, the reveal itself. What did you think about the reveal, though, Lexi? Real quick, did you like the way it was done? It was handled.
I do, because he finally gets the Grim Reaper after he's trying 2 or 3 times to squeeze Lucy's.
And that's the
heart
best
out.
part about it. Yeah,
And I love
finally.
Yes, and he picks up that slime, and he's like, "Who the fuck are you?" And just slamming his face down, he finally reveals that it's Charles Bartlett, and he's back to kill and number the town again.
That's like when Vince McMahon was revealed to be the higher power in wrestling.
God.
You know that storyline?
Yeah.
It was me. It was me all along.
God.
And he had the hood on too, like a Grim Reaper.
Yeah. And also touching on Dammers for a second and Patricia near the end of the movie. Like, I love the whole downward spiral. Not downward spiral. It was the upward spiral. The upward spiral of the whole thing going down with Patricia and Bartlett and Dammers attacking this couple, Lucy and Bannister. So I love the ending of this movie, which we can dive right into right now with the storyline rating, 1 through 5. Grimes, what do you think of this movie and the ending of this movie?
The storyline? Well, all right. The story as a whole, I'm gonna give it a 4. I think it's not the most original aspect of filmmaking, but it works. It's entertaining. The ending, again, the ending is important. It has to have a payoff. They got the reveal. You got the closure for Frank, which is nice. It's good to have that. Overall, yeah, a 4 as far as storyline goes. I think it's never boring. It's always, especially when the Grim Reaper comes into play, it gets really exhilarating at times. And watching it back then, the special effects were awesome. Just the ectoplasm look. I mean, especially that opening scene with that one long camera shot. Gia could appreciate that.
Yes.
Like, it goes right into, then it goes into Patricia going down the stairs and stuff. Like, everything about it works with the narrative of the film, and it helps push the story forward in a way where you're never checking your phone or nothing like that. So, and even for back then, I liked it. Overall 4. It's a strong 4 from Ricky Grimes.
JR, what did you think of the ending, the twist with Bartley, and your overall storyline score?
I'm gonna agree with Rick. It was a 4. Definitely. Like you said, we've seen this before. The fact that they added the comedy to it helped it. And one key thing too is the fact that what happened with him and his wife, even though that was part of the story, it wasn't thrown in your face the whole time, which they could have did that. And it could have basically made it more of a depressing kind of storyline. But the fact that that was used here and there in the story when it was needed to push the storyline even more, especially at the end where basically it was revealed that they're the ones that were responsible for his wife's death, made it even better. And, you didn't have that lingering thing. I mean, you didn't think about it too much. The scenes when they show him and his wife, you're like, all right, so this is what happened to her. This is a lead up and stuff. And okay, I appreciate that. And, the characters all helped out. I mean, the fact that that's freaking one thing. Sheriff was it Waltz?
Walt.
he ended up with Milton.
Yeah.
Milton was in the back of his car at the end. He goes, "Oh,
Yeah.
you were that guy." He goes, "What? Never mind." So he's sitting in the back like this, still looking. But yeah, I mean, it was a strong four. Yeah, I gotta understand. Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, this is one of those movies that, like Rick said before, it stands the test of time. You
Yeah.
can still watch it now and appreciate the special effects. You can appreciate the storyline, the characters, the comedy. So it has everything needed for a good movie.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a strong 4. Not a 5 because comedy and horror is not my taste. I love the twist with when he reveals himself because he comes back basically with the ashes released by Dammers, and he continues his business. He wanted to be the best murderer out there, more than I guess he had beef with this Starkweather person, which we don't get too much from that, which I like. But he wanted to be better than that person. But I also love the ending of the whole movie. Like, it was a perfect ending where Bannister dies by Patricia, and then he basically he grabbed her heart from the back, and he struggling with her and pulls her whole soul out basically, and they go up where they're going towards heaven, and then you see I love the part
Crazy visuals in there too.
Yeah, the visual. But I love that you see movies like this where the guy turns on the woman and good luck, but he really truly loved Patricia, and he goes after her up into the light, and then they come back down together into the hell of the hole. So that part was just awesome. The whole thing where they're getting taken down into hell. I love the ending, and overall strong movie from beginning to end. It just kept going the entire time. There was no stopping. There was no slow burn to it. It just from beginning to end. Can we just talk about Frank's driving? Okay.
I was so distracted by his haircut, man.
But it's the way I drive. Oh gosh. Yes. No. Yeah. Overall, 4. It's a great movie. I loved it when I was a child, and I love it to this day still. It's a favorite from my mom. She's waiting for this one to be released.
I think more people need to discover this movie. I think there's still a big
Yes.
pocket of horror fans that have never probably even heard of this film. And I'm talking younger fans, not our demographic,
It's a goodie. Oldie but goodie.
Oldie but goodie. There you go. That's your tagline right there.
So, characters, what do you rate them? And it's a huge cast, so if you want to go one by one or as a whole.
I'm going 5. This is every character in this film works, like I mentioned earlier. They got the best actors for the best roles within the film, and it adds so much when you got a good actor, even in the smallest role. It's just, you don't know how much it adds to your film, because it could be a judgment too, because you could see an actor and it takes you out of it because you're thinking about what they've done before, but it's got to be done well. And this movie, it did it very well. I mean, they got Michaeljfox, of course, as the lead, one of the most likable people in film at that time.
Yeah.
Even to this day, people love Michaeljfox. Especially, it sucks what happened to him, but I just love his positivity. And he's great. Jeffrey Combs as Dahmer. Again, I'm not gonna stress it no more. He was great. The 3 amigos. I mean, come on, man. Like, you gotta love those guys. And yeah, Jake Busey as the villain works. Dee Wallace, again, amazing. Like, the fact that they got her in this film as well. Yeah, it's awesome. And Peter Jackson cameos in this film. Oh, this again is a little Easter egg. I don't know if JR probably caught it. And I think I forgot whose room it was, but they show someone's VCR collection, and the 3 films is Brain Dead, Dead Alive, and Heavenly Bodies. The 3 VHS movies that Peter Jackson did that got him hired for this film.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm sorry, I had to bring it up. Yeah, that's a nice little Easter egg that was in that movie.
That is good.
Yeah, 5. It's a 5 for the characters. They brought so much to this film, from the most minor character to the very top. You can't beat it.
JR?
No, I agree with everything he said. It's hard to get a horror comedy that you have such a great cast that hits it off and hits a home run. I mean, if I was going to compare this one to another horror comedy that has a good cast and it's a home run, it'd be like Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
I mean, is this
Again with Sean? It's not Sean that's doing the comedy; it's everything
right?
around him. Same
Everything
with
around him.
Frank. Frank is not the comical character really, and this Michael J.
Yeah.
Fox.
Yeah.
He's not the. It's not. He's not the comedy. It's the ghosts and the situations he's put in,
Yeah.
and that's the genius of it.
And think about it
Yeah.
too. He's a likable character who plays an unlikable guy,
Yeah,
which he really rarely does. I mean,
really does.
he was really good in Teen Wolf. I mean, who doesn't love Marty McFly? I mean, he is. He's such a great. And the thing is, as much as he was
It's
a
a
lead
film,
character,
class of '87, I think, or something like that. It's
Yeah.
it's a revenge film, horror revenge film. It's on Shudder. Michael J. Fox is in it as a high schooler, man. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't know. I started watching this movie. It's just, oh, this looks interesting because
Yeah.
I like exploitation. He's not building it he's not a star yet. But when I see it, I'm like, wait a minute, it's Michael J. Fox. Like, look how young this motherfucker is there. So you see him, he just brings a smile to
Yeah.
your face, man.
a
Yeah,
good thing about him too is he was the lead character, but when other people around him, they were all on a level playing field.
hmm
And they were willing to basically have that balance among each other. So that was another thing that was good. Yeah, definitely 5, without a doubt, 5.
Yeah, I agree. All characters from even the sergeant in the graveyard, like they're all a 5. Every single one, they played their part and they excelled at it. All of them. But the people that stood out to me was Michael J. Fox as Frank Bannister. But yeah, overall characters 5, all of them, from the ghost to Lucy. Who's an underdog?
Lucy
We
was
didn't.
good too. The actress, who's the actress? Like Alvarado.
Trini Alvarado.
Okay, I don't. Where's she from? You guys know? She looks
It
familiar,
was-
but I
She's in a
can't.
few things, and I just can't remember it. But yeah. She was underrated in this one, but she was MVP, I would say, in this movie.
She played a big role.
Yeah,
big part
a
of the
really
film.
good role.
Big part.
And I love the relationship between her and Bannister. And I love the ending with her finally being able to see what he sees. And that Dammer sure looks pissed. And he's like, what? And so it's cool. And I would love to see a sequel where they both go and deal with stuff like this, like the Warrens or something. But, a horror comedy version done like this, not badly. Thank you.
You know that this was supposed to be originally Tales from the Crypt, like how they did Demon Knight
Yeah.
and the other film, but they loved the script so much that Robert Zemeckis got a hold of it, and then he said, "No, we need this to be a standalone film,
Yeah.
not part of Tales from the Crypt." So
Wow.
there you go. If you guys didn't know, now you know.
No. I love the facts.
Oh yeah.
It's Ricky Grimes.
When I watch a movie and I love it, I always go back and I research the hell out of it. So
nice. So overall score for this film, The Frighteners. What is your overall score, Ricky?
if you take my averages, I'm 4.5. It's a 4.5 for me.
She gonna kill you. Look, she has this guy ready for you.
Right. Listen, it's a 4.5. I think, again, because of the fact that it's not. I don't want to say it's not original because it is original. It is very original, and the style is original of this film. You know what I mean? But it's just there was no real negatives. But again, some of the comedy in it, in my opinion, like with the judge and the museum and stuff, it takes it like right, a little weird, and it's just for me, my personal preference. About comedy and horror, it has to work. It works here, but sometimes it's a little too goofy. I don't know if that was the
cheesy in some sections.
I'm not sure if that was the intention or not. Maybe it came off that way. Maybe I read it wrong. But I love violence, gore, murder, mayhem. That's my forte. And if it's a good horror comedy done well, I rock with it. But sometimes it got a little bit too goofy for me. That's why I can't go all the way with it. But if it's a 5 for anyone else, there's no debate because this movie is definitely a classic film.
JR, what's your rate overall?
I'm gonna give the same thing, 4.5. If this movie would to push to 5, it would have been, if I have one nitpick on it, I wanted more of Miles.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Combs' character. If they did push him a little bit more, I mean, he played a good, you could say, villain role, but I don't know. For who he is, they could have pushed that character a little bit more. And I think if they would have pushed it more towards like more the darker side whenever he was around, I think
Mm-hmm.
it would have pushed it to 5 because it's a horror movie. You still want that dark edge to it. And
I feel like he was still scary because he was still like he would pop up like at the freezer section when she froze Bannister for a little bit at the cryo freezer. Remember the part? Yeah. Do you remember that part?
Yeah, where he locked them in.
Like, how do you know they were there? Like he's an FBI agent. I guess he knows where everybody is. But and then he also pops up at the abandoned island Salem. So like he's everywhere.
I just want a little bit more of him because of the character he is. I mean, he could have been his appearances could have countered more of that regular comedy and going to.
But the appearances that he did have, he chewed up the scenery in a good way. Yeah,
it was just a little bit more of him. You know, you always have that one character you want a little bit more of.
That's fair. Yeah.
You know, but yeah, 4.5.
Oh,
here
comes the 5. Here comes the
5. You'll be surprised. It's definitely a 4.5 for me too.
Oh, what?
Yes, I know. Only because I just am not a fan of horror comedy. Although this one works, I don't think I can even name another horror comedy like this one. I don't think I've even watched one like this one or even care to watch a horror comedy.
You like Gremlins?
Yes.
Dawn of the
Dead? Yes. All right, y'all call me out. But I do love this one.
No, I understand.
Since I was a child, since I was 6, although I love all the ones you listed, just it's not my forte. Y'all know me. I'm a very dark, demented Christian possession person. I love those dark movies. I want something to make me jump out of my skin and like keep the lights on at night or sleep with an eye open. And this one doesn't do that for me. So, but it works. It's a great. I love that it is more horror than it is comedy. So that's why it gets a 4.5. So that is it with What's Your Story with the Frighteners, followed with Ricky Grimes, JR, and myself, Lexi, as Charles Bartlett.
You got it right.
I know. I had to make sure I got it right since I butchered his name the whole time. But yes, great film. You guys need to watch it, especially our generation today.
Yes.
So, JR, do you want to say what we have going on next time?
We're going to do a sequel of sorts. I mean, it's debatable if it's a sequel, but it is a sequel to a great found footage called Cloverfield. We are going to do 10 Cloverfield Lane, which, if you love John Goodman, it's one of his best roles ever. Oops, did I just say that? Yep.
Do we see that together or no?
No.
I saw with your brother.
I love that movie so much. I can't wait to get in that.
But joining us for 10 Cloverfield Lane is going to be the psychologist himself, coming on to see what he has to say about
Joe the psychologist.
John Goodman.
Ricky Grimes, tell us what you have going. So that is it with What's Your Story with the Frighteners, followed with Ricky Grimes, JR, and myself, Lexi, as Charles Bartlett.
You got it right.
I know. I had to make sure I got it right since I butchered his name the whole time. But yes, great film. You guys need to watch it, especially our generation today.
Yes.
So, JR, do you want to say what we have going on next time?
We're going to do a sequel of sorts. I mean, it's debatable if it's a sequel, but it is a sequel to a great found footage called Cloverfield. We are going to do 10 Cloverfield Lane, which, if you love John Goodman, it's one of his best roles ever. Oops, did I just say that? Yep.
Do we see that together or no?
No.
I saw with your brother.
I love that movie so much. I can't wait to get in that.
But joining us for 10 Cloverfield Lane is going to be the psychologist himself, coming on to see what he has to say about
Joe the psychologist.
John Goodman.
Yep. Ricky Grimes, tell us what you have going.
Look out for that. I still got a few left. I'm not gonna say what they are. You're gonna have to tune in for that. But thank you for watching my previous ones that I just released, especially Terrifier and Saint's Little Helper. A lot of good feedback for those two. I appreciate it. Yeah, and it's just gonna keep getting better. And keep watching Brains and Brews, our monthly show. Me and Joe the Psychologist, where we drink beer, get drunk, and talk zombie films.
I love it. I love that show. I've been tuning in on that one.
Thank you. It's fun.
So that is it. Until next time. In the meantime, like, subscribe, share, do what you need to do, especially subscribe. Hit that button. Until next time, as Ricky Grimes would always say,
stay scared.